many different colors, in this case white for the test models and also for snow camouflage operations during winter exercises. And of course the snaps or Velcro or other closures can be determined by the individual operator depending upon his needs as he orders the technology. Now these are a very simple system. They're designed to cross over, and in this particular case the American system, unlike the Chinese, has a quick release stay system that's available. And you may be very familiar with it if you have a pair of suspenders that you're wearing right now. Again, the advantages: existing technology, drawn off the shelf and available to the militia forces across the nation. These systems are virtually being made in mass, tens of thousands at a time now, in several different militia plants that have been very successfully manufacturing and designing systems for the needs of the militia itself. They're very specific. They are, of course, coming up with innovative ideas, and we also ask that those of you who are listening continue to endeavor to develop technology of this type. If you have a problem, come up with a solution. One of the other problems that we have had attached to this, of course, is the idea that while we may be able to access these even from our own production facilities, there are still other systems that are available. If you see them, grab them. In this case, what we have is a Canadian version of the same basic chest pouch, also known as poor man's body armor. One of the advantages to having the magazines held high on the body is that they do provide some protection from small arms fire. Of course, you're going to lose the magazine, but probably that's better than losing your life, I assume. And the systems, while they are very user-friendly, in this case utilizing a quiet connector, plastic fittings, and will hold one standard 30-round magazine for the AK-47, or of course FAL magazines, and will also provide stowage for the M16 magazine. Any system of comparable size can obviously be used. Note again the variances on the technology, going from the American Patriot system, Canadian technology, and in this case, of course, also Chinese technology. All of them very desirable, any one of them more than usable for the Patriot. Now, in addition to this system, we also have a series of magazines provided for many defunct tyrannies that presently, of course, are being made available on the Rent-A-Revolution market. This includes, in this case, East German AK-47 40-round magazine pouches and 30-round magazine pouches. You may have been familiar with these, having seen them at gun shows or other source points such as surplus stores. It may be noted that in this case, this is the original color configuration, but at the need of the shooter and at the need of the individual unit, depending upon terrain and environment, the colors have been changed. This particular one was re-dyed by the operator, and as you can see, successfully was darkened, while not changing the camouflage value of the equipment that was being used. In all cases, remember, we have to tailor the equipment to the weapon system. This, more than anything else, has to be a major consideration with regards to how the spare magazines or ammunition is stowed on the person, and also when shopping around or trying to identify specific technology support, even if it's commercial baggage. Remember again, try to find original systems that were adapted to the original weapon, and then integrate them with existing American technology to improve the overall performance of your unit. Again, a fairly quiet closer snap, but in this case, these are made of metal. And it will be noted, very simple release. These are good and stiff. And what we're demonstrating here is a 40-round magazine, East German manufactured, for the AK-47, AKS, / of course the converted SKS carbine. A very desirable weapon system. This technology, of course, is again reasonably priced, and while it is still available, we recommend that you buy as many magazines as you possibly can. Now, while we are on the subject of magazines, assemblies, and components, and also supporting the weapon system, we might want to turn for just a moment to the concept of carrying additional stowage items. Obviously, we're concerned with ammunition, drum magazines, which are important, and anybody who does have a magazine-fed weapon that can purchase drum magazines should purchase at least one for each weapon. In addition to that, though, it is obvious that a cleaning kit is mandatory. One of the things that, of course, will mean the difference between life and death on the battlefield is whether or not we can maintain the weapon system when the time comes. Either use existing cleaning kits and systems that are available and readily available from surplus agencies that also provided the weapon, or Improvise and fabricate as needed what you feel are the tools that are necessary to keep these systems functional. Another point should be, whenever possible, acquire all support technology in as great a volume as possible. In this case, SKS stripper clips will also work, of course, to at least stow the ammunition efficiently, but eliminate some of the cumbersome packaging that the ammunition normally comes in. In addition to all of the other parts, also spare parts are crucial. These SKS return springs, or in this case, tappet springs, were made by a U.S. manufacturer. Many plants across the nation that are working with the militia movement have been producing large quantities of spare parts, virtually in the millions. These parts are not foreign made. These parts are American made. And again, spares should be carried. This particular spring is underneath the front sight or the rear sight of the SKS carbine, and if you've disassembled this weapon, you know that this is probably one of the first springs you will lose. Note that the shooter is carrying 3. Almost all of our systems carry onboard spare parts in buttstock stowage or in other areas of the weapon where when needed they can be accessed and of course utilized to keep the weapon functioning in the field. Again, integrated support. There are also stowage points on the magazine pouches themselves, such as the chest pouch. These smaller pouch points on the side can be used for the cleaning kits, oil bottles, and also for spare parts that will be essential to support the weapon system at hand. Remember also, and we will do this constantly through any of our training tapes, do not lubricate the ammunition. And again, shiny, clean, make sure that you inspect the ammunition for damage, dings, dents, also for perforations or for oxidation and corrosion. When carrying it in web gear or when carrying it with military support gear, we have a tendency to find that moisture does collect and stay with steel components. Magazines themselves should be lightly lubricated. Ammunition should be withdrawn from the magazines, should be stowed separately. The magazines themselves, along with the weapon, should then be properly lubricated, wiped back down, and then